So this is the meeting of the Fairfield Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, the monthly meeting. Call the meeting to order at 6:04. I guess, I know everybody here, but maybe we can do a call to order since Frank is new, and so we could at least introduce ourselves to him. So I'll go first. I'm Steve Neidick. I'm the interim chair of the committee. Sarah Roy was the chairperson when I started here, and I think she did it for, better part of this year, I believe, as the chairperson, and she resigned. So I'm filling in for her and running the meeting. We'll figure out later on how we're going to change things, going forward. So anyhow, like I said, I haven't been here that long, about 5 months. There's a lot that goes on here. I think one of the things that, just an observation from me, is that the value of the town updates are the most valuable part of the meeting, frankly, because, it's our interaction with Santina and Bill Hurley. Bill never got back to me. I don't know.
Here he is.
I said Bill never got back to me.
Right on cue.
Okay,
Boy, impressive.
You couldn't have written that better.
Right?
He was waiting in the hallway.
That's your cue. Go.
Yeah.
We're just doing quick introductions.
Sure.
Because Frank, do you know Frank at all?
Better a couple times. I've seen you a couple times around town.
Yeah.
Welcome on
So,
board.
now let's do the committee members first, and then
Mhm.
Frank a minute or two, and Bill and Santina, and Mary's going to be here supposedly. So those are the kind of 4 individuals from the town that have been represented here.
Can you hear me?
Since I've been here. Hello.
No.
Oh, you can hear me. I thought if I called and you couldn't hear me. I'm Mary. I'm here. I thought I had.
You're by a phone. Okay, Mary.
I have no instructions on how to get on any other way. So sorry. So I'm on phone. But I'll be quiet now. Sorry. You can hear me.
No,
Sorry.
no.
Bye.
You're fine. Okay. Mary, you want to go?
I'm also Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Marys. Mary Tomistrito. I've been on the committee probably about 4 or 5 months as well. Very interested in, bike, pedestrian, safety, walking, mostly more of a walker than I am a biker, but interested in both for certain. And hopefully we can, make some better, safer walking in the area, in the town. Sidewalks, crosswalks, etc. is what my interests are. So happy to be on the committee.
Cool. Hey, Mary.
But by the way, I'm sorry to interrupt. But both Mary and Jose have re-upped on the committee at they were approved the last Board of Selectmen meeting. So,
Yeah. Brenda's meeting last week.
I think for you two guys, they went from a 4-year term to an 8-year term, just so you know.
Yeah. No.
For the pro.
At 6 years, the pro board meeting.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm sorry, Jose, go ahead.
I'm still processing the 8 years. Hey, everybody, Jose Aromi, live near North Stratfield. One of the reasons why I became interested in this committee is that I've become rather passionate about the safety of students walking to and from school. I've noticed in a couple different schools some issues. I know I've talked to Bob about this and others. But I'm also a cyclist and pedestrian, and unfortunately I am survivor is the wrong word, but I got clipped, riding my bike, turning into Tungus Hill. So, things like that leave a mark, literal and physical. So I'm glad to be here, have observed the committee do some work, and I'm excited about the possibilities of the things that we can do together.
It occurred to me while we're doing this, I think we have a nice mix of geography within the town. I mean, I live in the beach area. Mary, you live
Walmart Street, right near Jerry Queen.
right off the Post Road, up to that end. You live in
Lake Mohegan,
Lake Mohegan area. Tom, I'm not sure where you live. Downtown. In Stratford, yeah. So we've got a very nice, which I think helps having not everybody from one area, let's say, because, frankly, part of this committee's work is somewhat parochial, okay? At least when you first start. You probably joined because you have something in your neighborhood that you don't particularly like and you'd like to see changed. And it's not the only thing you want to do, but it's kind of why you did it. I mean, that's my thing was, pedestrian. You might remember the accident in November in Mill Plain Road 2 years ago, but my friend Tommy he survived the crash, but his girlfriend didn't, so she died in the accident. So this is my reason why I became involved. And plus, I walk a lot on Fairfield Beach Road, and, there's some things there that can be changed for sure. Whether I know there's no sidewalks. I live on the side where there's no sidewalks going down the dead end. But, things like, walking facing traffic is big in my heart. People that don't use sidewalks and walk on the road 3 abreast pisses me off. And that goes for bicycle riders too that ride 3 abreast in the middle of the road. So stuff like that. I mean, that's, to me, they're not big things. They're relatively simple things, but I think it's all about education. I don't think people know. I mean, you may or may not know there's a statute that says you have to walk. If there's a sidewalk, you have to use the sidewalk, and you have to walk facing traffic, and you could actually get a citation for it. But I don't think anybody, and I'm not saying we should do that by any means, but the point being that there are rules and regulations out there that, down the road, I think to build the awareness would help tremendously, and that's my opinion. So sorry to interrupt and cut in, but so my area is more pedestrian related than bike related. So, and Tom.
Tom Keene. I live down off of South Benson. And I also come at this from the pedestrian angle too. I used to walk for years and years and years. Walk to the railroad station every day, and like you, I mean, I had my fair share of dodging, getting run over, and to the point where I got a big bright scarf to wear over my overcoat at night in the winter because it looked stupid, but saved my ass a few times. Then same thing. You walk, and when I first joined, my big thing was those hideous at North-South Benson at Post Road. The way that they've changed them now, finally, but the way the state had the lights and the walk, don't walk signs set up, it was just a nightmare. And in fact, they were literally cocked at a 45-degree angle. So on the corner, you couldn't see them. And I used to watch like the Ludlow track teams come down and get in the middle of the street and go running back to the sidewalk because they didn't know what to do. So that same kind of thing. There's a lot of stuff you walk, and then we run into the buzzsaw all the time. Yeah, it's great, but that's a state road. We can't do anything about that. Blah blah blah. But there's a lot of other roads, so that aren't state roads. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
My name is Jay Bean. I was appointed last month. This is my second meeting here, and I was interested about a year ago, and I guess at the time there wasn't any positions open, and I just recently got appointed, so it's great, and I just want to make a difference.
What area do you live in?
I live in Stratfield.
Stratfield, too. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a nice mix.
Yeah. Is there anybody that's for bike? Because I know we had some pedestrian.
I'm a cyclist.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I ride too, but not as.
Yeah, I actually did like a little mini survey of like if you had a preference, which one is your heart lean more towards? And we had a couple of bikes. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
We had a couple of bikes and a couple of pedestrians and a couple that said, I'm good, I like both, I do both or whatever. So there's an agenda item later on talking about subcommittees that, we can go into that a little further. But so anyhow, thanks, Tom and Jay. So again, Bill, I'm sure you noticed, one of the things that I thought made sense, and again, I'm not here to make dramatic changes by any means, I'm just trying to run the meeting, but to have you folks that are in the office all day here to stick around till 7:15 sometimes to give your presentation did make sense to me. And I think going forward we should, get you guys updates first, and you're certainly welcome to stay for the whole meeting. I mean, that's the obvious statement. But I understand, you guys, I work for town government too, and I used to have to go to night meetings, and, it kind of takes up a lot of time. So anyhow, that was one of the changes.
Well, no, I appreciate it. I don't get paid extra.
Right, exactly, yep.
And I appreciate what even past one, chairmen have done that. And again, it all relates to the agenda. If we know there's a lot of agenda items that we're gonna be covering or that,
Right.
you know, we wanna hang around and attend, we wanna help the town for sure. But in the case where you have to go, then it's like, oh, before I leave, anybody have any questions? And you can kinda, you know, go that way. We try to keep the structure, you know, but I appreciate that, because sometimes we have other meetings,
Yep.
or, like you said,
Well, it just made
cut
sense
out
to me.
early. We appreciate that.
Mary, you're next. Do you kind of, can you tell us about yourself?
Mary Hogue?
Yes, Mary, yep, mm-hmm.
Sorry, because you have a Mary on your committee. Sorry. Mary Hogue, I'm chair of the Forestry Committee and secretary for the Sustainable Fairfield Task Force, and I live in Greenfield Hill, so no sidewalks up here. My husband is an avid biker, and we go to bike trails, but I don't bike on the street. It scares me.
Yeah, I hear you. That guy just got, the Secretary of State's brother, Bisowitz, got hit on a bicycle in, where was it? Milton? I don't think it was
No,
Milton.
somewhere in the
In the past 2 days.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's in
old
like
line, Madison, something.
serious shape, you know, and there's a hit and run thing, which is horrible. And it just a sidebar thing too, that I heard yesterday that the guy that hit him, is an EMT, and he hit the person and drove away. I mean, now obviously, to me, that's an obvious thing where there was alcohol involved, because he knew that if he stopped, he would have been arrested on the spot. That's I could be wrong, but that's my best guess, and I think I'm probably right. So, and Frank, you probably would know better than that. That's the MO for people that run away in most cases.
It's a variety of things, that's possibly one, but people get nervous, they get scared.
Yeah.
Fright and
They start
flight.
thinking like crazy.
I'm going to
things.
jail,
A lot
whatever.
of times, if people just stay there and do the right thing,
Yep.
they're gonna be in less trouble than if they do, they leave. So
Absolutely.
and I get that all the time. So.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Mary. And I'm sorry, we skipped Santine. Well, either way. Santine, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Santina Durango. I'm the Assistant Director of Health for Community Health for the Fairfield Health Department. I've been here since the start, so 2014. And the Health Department and the committee have a really, really good partnership. And so all of the bike routes, the sidewalk improvements, the bike racks around town, all of that stuff, the Health Department funds it, but it really comes from a partnership here. So I always joke that you guys just kind of use me for my money.
Don't joke, it's true.
So how can we work together, right? Because obviously the Health Department is focused on getting people physically active and keeping people safe. So this has just been really a good partnership.
Thank you, yep.
I was gonna say, like you said, the Health Department has supplied a grant basically on behalf of this committee for a good 6, if not 8 years.
Since 2014, yeah. So the bike share program that we had at Zane's was funded, and it started here with support from the committee. We go before the police commission together for any approvals for the bike routes that we've had. Wilson Street, when they came here and they needed sidewalk to connect to the park.
Avenue.
Yes, so we've done a lot together.
6 or 7 bike routes with signs and lines, So, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And Frank is our newest member. It's the first time since, again, a short timer here, but we have never had a police representative here, and I think it's critical, especially as it relates to things that they're doing for safety, and we're very anxious to hear things like that, and possibly make suggestions, hopefully, that you can take back to someone and say, these guys think this might be a good idea, whatever the case might be. Right. But I think it's critical, and like I said, it's been missing. I understand you guys are short-staffed. We know all the background on the whole thing, but really appreciate you being here. That's terrific.
There was an officer, Gary Wickman, years ago, but when he retired...
I heard the name, yeah.
We have haven't had anybody, and there was training and some other things, so good to have you aboard, Frank.
Okay, Tim, you want to just real quick tell us about yourself? And one of the questions we asked is where you live, because we figured out we have a nice geographical spread between the members here, and I think you're part of that too. So.
Sure. I'm Tim Callahan. I live on Jackman Avenue, which is on the east side of town.
Yep.
And I'm a biker. I've been riding for many years. I was involved with the Norwalk Bike Walk Committee when I was the health director there, so I'm very interested in this. And with the
Probably have seen me in your neighborhood quite a bit lately.
see cars there once in a while.
Jackman Avenue and Edgewood Road. Stop signs there.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Doing enforcement?
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's a lot of kids there too that cross the road and people just fly right through the stop sign. I mean, we have these problems all around town, obviously, but, we try to do the best we can with it, but we've been there quite a bit to try and help reduce that.
Just to let you know, if there happens to be a particular area that's a high violation or something like that, let us know or let one of your people from the traffic division know, captain or lieutenant. And, there might be some things we can do. We can do the red stripes to highlight the stop sign, maybe the pavement markings, a larger stop sign, something like that.
Are there monthly reports, Frank, that are, public, accessible by the public? I think everything's accessible by the public. That sort of says, here's where we set up. I don't care if it's speed monitors or radar traffic, whatever, and the locations and the volumes and the success or whatever. Is that stuff that you could share with us at some point? On a monthly basis?
The way it's kind of hard because we cover a lot of areas, but we have problematic areas, and we have people that are really concerned about how you guys were just mentioning about your geographical areas. I mean, we become very protective of all those areas. So I can't say, being an officer for this town for 21 years, there isn't one, every place has issues, as you all know, Fairfield Beach area has its own issues.
Yep.
But the issues kind of carry around town, we always have the same complaints or same types of complaints. Our unit does, we go above and beyond because we actually now deal with these complaints and we carry them out. We try to prove them out. Some complaints I think are just more about educating the people. Because, things sometimes may seem or be perceived as something and it's not, but we still have a complaint, so we have to see what that complaint is, and we try to carry it through to see, Jackman Avenue was not actually a direct complaint. It came in as just somebody kind of saying, hey, the stop sign. It wasn't like a formal complaint. I went there and I started to see that, this is an area that needs some attention. So it did become one of our target areas, and we have a lot of different target areas, and they change constantly. So for what you're saying, as far as bringing in that stuff, it's kind of hard to because it's not just based on pedestrian or bike stuff. It's a lot of it is based on speed. Mm-hmm. What people complain to be speed, but it can be a lot of other issues too, distracted driving. We just completed a grant recently on the distracted driving, which is cell phone violations. Yep. And seat belts are coming up, but we always do have different things that come up on top of different complaints.
How about things high, I'm sure you guys track all this stuff, but high accident intersections, and the one that it was just in the paper this past week or next door or whatever, the Umpqua Road and Mill Plain Road. And I agree, when I go into that intersection, it just sort of, there's something about it, it just doesn't work right.
Well, you know what it is, that intersection there,
because it's not squared off.
Well, it's staggered, but
right.
You also have Mill Plain going southbound has two travel lanes, one that's a turning lane and one that's a straight lane. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you'll have cars that'll simultaneously go, and there's a confusion sometimes with that, maybe. We don't have I don't want to say that the accidents there are excessive. We have other areas that are, that are probably even worse than that.
Yeah. But even things like that, Bill, whatever, I mean, maybe that's something like this committee should, put on our list of, can we figure out a way, engineering-wise or whatever, or safety enforcement or police enforcement to make it better. I mean, you said...
We do that, just so you know. So, like, we do that based on complaints and input that come in. Like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Villa Avenue right now. That's like a huge topic right now.
Yep.
And to the people that live in that neighborhood are seeing a big problem. We've done a ton of enforcement there. We did some studies. I think we had some engineers come out from the town, talking about how the road was structured and can it be changed. And now we are coming up with something else that we're going to have these new state signs, signs that are like these big digital bright yellow signs that are going to tell your speed. We had other types of signs, but now we got much better ones, and they're solar powered, so we don't have like battery issues, because a lot of these signs, most of these speed signs that we put out, like sometimes people, there's a misconception with it. So they're temporary, and the reason why they're temporary is because they work when they're temporary. When they stay there for a long period of time,
People start ignoring them.
what happens is people start
Wallpaper.
figuring out, I know this sign.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
Sure.
if you move that sign around, I guarantee you, when you see that sign, you're gonna put the brakes down a little bit, and you're like, oh, whoa, this is new.
Yep.
So there's a reason to our
They
madness,
hide
the way we do things, but sometimes people take it to a personal level. Like when we remove the sign, they're like, well, that sign's working, it's working. We want it to stay effective all the time. We want it to be fresh, so we move it around. So we have a new system that's coming up, that's starting with these signs, but because of they're not very portable, we have to get together with DPW, and it's gonna have to be something that DPW handles as far as moving them.
Are they up already, or not?
They're up, but they're not powered up yet.
Yeah,
They're not
okay.
running. But I think what it is, it's either 8 weeks or 10 weeks we're gonna leave them there.
Oh, okay, I was
And
wondering.
then we're going
rotation.
to move them around. So to your question, yes, we do a lot of things like that. But for me to come in and bring in all the accidents, I think what it would do is dilute the other stuff that what you guys are probably, we would actually be adding more to the problem, and it's not gonna help us to gear down on just the real problematic areas, Like, you might tell me something that I don't know about
Right.
a certain area.
Right.
So.
But typically that's how they do a risk analysis, though, in safety, is how they look at areas that are having most problems, and they
Sure.
go for those first.
Absolutely.
Typically, like,
Yeah.
I've said this since I started, I'm a big advocate for downtown. I mean, we need better crosswalks. Like, I was out Saturday night and going across the street in a highly populated area of people dining, you have to run across the street. How could there be now signaled crosswalks there? It's mind-blowing to me, actually.
And the downtown, like you said,
In a downtown area.
is becoming something big.
Huge,
Yeah.
with the theater now, and it's like, you cross over right in front of Old Post Tavern, and there's no signaled crosswalk. There's no signaled crosswalk of where the library is, and it's like, how are all these people out? And I frankly was embarrassed, because my friends on this committee, they're like, how do you cross the road? No, I mean, how do you cross the road and there's no signaled crosswalk? Like, it's mind-blowing. There are a cross-post road, right? That's great, but not, I don't know if it's
East-west.
east-west, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, I'm directionally. So there's not east-west, but cross-post road, it's like, it's great. You press the button, it tells you when to cross. But they don't have these going across, and it's mind-blowing, actually.
I can give you good news and bad news about that.
I know old wiring is expensive, I get it, but like,
No, it's tied into other signals, and so the state is limited. The state is going to improve that, and I believe they're gonna get the walk, don't walk. I have to see if they're willing to do the walk, don't walk on the side streets still. We've been pushing for that, based on, obviously, public complaints as well. But they couldn't do the exclusive ped phase, and they couldn't do even the lead pedestrian interval, which I was gonna shoot for as a consolation prize even, where the walk will start and the pedestrian will be like halfway before the other traffic moves. And the state couldn't do it because of the way the system is. But they are supposed to put in the countdown.
yeah, like they have going across. like I said.
No, they're not countdown though. Right now, they're just red, yellow, green. I don't even think there's a.
No, there's a count one, like, over near the Starbucks, I take the train, so.
Starbucks. I thought you meant by the movie theater.
No, I'm talking there too, but they have a countdown one there.
Yeah,
Why
right,
can't
that's
they
a
put
newer
that?
one. They will, that's what I was getting at, that's the good news, is they are doing some improvements to that intersection. But it's not the grand prize that we were hoping for, but there will be some improvements.
They have done a lot of improvements though, over the years.
Yes.
The problem with the traffic flow, it was the way the timing was on all those lights down Post Road. I remember when they were actually redoing that. It's gotten better than what it was, but obviously it's not reached, probably, what we would like it to be.
Yeah,
And that's
I mean,
the state can only make adjustments.
Right, that's right.
Post Road is just a state,
well, I was told the side ones weren't though. Am I wrong? I was told the
No, but
state
the
was across.
They tie into
yeah.
the state road though.
But, yeah,
Oh, so
the
that's
state
the state's
owns and
responsibility?
maintains the intersection.
So what about the grants that's coming through the state and stuff? Why isn't this been utilized this way for,
Well,
areas?
that is one of the grants is to, as I said, to improve. We were hoping, and a former chairman here, Alyssa Israel, I know is pushing for it as well. And as I said, we're getting some improvements is how I would word it.
Mm-hmm.
But we were really hoping for like a home run, and we got a double, to be honest with you,
So-
in an analogy.
So may I just
Sure.
ask, so how does that, if that's a state-run
Right,
road,
that's correct.
how does that work with the town, and tie in maybe into the police force too? When they're doing those type of things, do they have to come to you and say,
Well,
we're gonna do this and it's our system and we're gonna monitor it, or do they just do it and say?
Well, actually, they typically will give us a design. They'll let us know they're working on the intersection, and at a 30 to 60% design, they will solicit town comment. So we can make comments. Someone had mentioned the North Benson one, and that was one where, again, we made comments. They were able to incorporate most of them, if not all of them, at that one. And so that's how it's done. Same with the Mill Plain Road one. We were able to incorporate, I'm going to say 90% of the comments. The one comment that we wanted was to give Mill Plain Road more green time, but that would mean taking away green time from Route 1, the state highway.
That's their golden.
Yeah, that's the problem that you have.
But what we at least did was, at least non-rush hours, the state has given Mill Plain more green time, so at least off hours, you don't have it back up, in most cases, all the way to the Turnpike, which it used to be. So we are trying to do cooperation.
It's really bad, actually.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
You come,
Why is that?
during that, like coming, eastbound on Post Road, like, Post and Pine.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Where it merges, I mean, it's crazy, because what people are doing there, because they want to buy the time of that whole delay, they're actually coming and passing on the right in the breakdown.
Oh, yeah.
Right lane,
I've
if
seen
you
it.
wanna call
That's where I live. I live on Beaumont.
Because of that
I see it.
merger,
I saw it
and
tonight,
we had,
actually.
I had an accident there probably about a week or two ago. And that's the problem, is if you don't think about all those cycles, that you kind of, people get really, they get nutty.
So anyway, usually I work it through the chairman, but if the state does come with a new set of plans or something like that, they'll, as I said, they usually talk to the town, and then usually they will hold a public informational meeting. Now, in the old days, it wasn't virtual. You had to show up. They'd pick some obscure night, and 3 people, if that, would show up.
Weathersfield or something.
Yeah, right, or whatever. Sometimes it was in Fairfield, but sometimes it wasn't. They're getting a little bit better now. They're virtual and whatever. So if there are meetings coming up, I'll let you know for sure on that.
That's a highly walkable area, right in front of the theater, right in front of the Old Post Tavern, and like, people are literally running in front of cars, and I thought, this is ridiculous.
Been there, everybody's done it,
In the
probably.
building housing down there.
But just a question for you, the 2 signs that you mentioned the last meeting, are they the same signs?
Yeah,
you
those
were
are the
talking
same,
about?
yeah,
Okay.
they're a speed feedback
Yeah,
or
okay.
radar sign.
Yeah,
One
okay.
question I did have for you was, do you know if they are recording as information as well, or is it just strictly speed?
I believe those have the capability to get us some information.
Like record volume,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff? Okay, that's good to know.
Signs do. The other speed signs that we have, the small ones that we put on that you see on the actual U-Bolt street sign, those are just strictly speed. But we have other equipment
those car counter things, I don't see them anymore. Are they obsolete? You know, the black
Yeah,
posts
we
that
have something
went
else
across the
that's out there
road?
that's better.
Yeah,
So we have other.
those are kind of
those
obsolete,
are
right?
awesome,
Yeah, okay.
They use something called the Black Cat.
Yeah.
right.
It's kind of a pain to set up, but it gives us
really accurate information.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
We can talk about that after, too.
Yeah.
All right, Billy, would you like to give us a quick update
Yeah, well,
on things that we would
yeah,
be
sure.
interested
Some of
in
the
or
things,
following up?
just to let everybody know, I talked to Jack I think Imes is his name, and Judy Proctor. They represent Sasquatch and Southport Association regarding Pequot Avenue issues. And what we have is, unfortunately, a lot of, we did a crosswalk there. That's going to be, I recommended to the lieutenant that would be maybe phase 2 to put one of those signs on Pequot, the feedback sign. The other one, ironically, was North Stratfield School area. So even from our meeting from a couple of years ago, I wanted that to make sure that your neighborhood wasn't forgotten. And I didn't even know you lived there. So, I mean, you know, from this meeting, I just happened to pick those 2 areas.
That's great.
Where in Pequot, just curious? Pequot's a pretty big street.
Pequot would be, well,
Where's the problem?
What happens is you go out of Westport in particular, and then you have the beach area, which obviously during the busy season, you know, people, I like to think, slow down a little bit, but during the off season, it's a straightaway, they fly, and then all of a sudden, there's no side streets, no people maybe, and then all of a sudden, you turn the corner, there's neighborhoods, there's people walking the street because there's no room for sidewalks, and that would be the only thing, and I don't mind at all, for anybody that has an issue, always, you can let me or let anybody know, because sometimes there's a reason why. You know, like for instance, Pequot, we had a major push to try to put in sidewalks, but we only have a 3-foot right-of-way from the edge of the road. So after you're done with the hydrant and a pole, we don't have any land to put a sidewalk. So the only way we'd be able to do it is if we had people granting us easements of giving away their property, which down there isn't going to really happen. And so that's kind of why we.
Did that last holdout on South Pine Creek come around or no?
Well, that was another reason. That's what I was going to bring that up too.
Okay.
Right.
We're going to be working with Santina on the next phase. We had done a good portion of South Pine Creek, but there's still another section to go. We have met with that neighbor. Although everybody here loves to bike and you know, walk, unfortunately we have some people in town that they don't want to move a fence, they don't want to move a shrub, they don't want to shovel a sidewalk, and they may not share the same ideas that we have.
For sure.
And so sometimes, because I saw your notes, the minutes, like there was a little bit of frustration of why Pine Creek might have taken a year. Well, that's one of the reasons why. We have to try to at least have the neighborhood tolerate it. It always seems to be 1 or 2 neighbors that don't want the sidewalk. Why don't you put it on the other side? Or, I walked somewhere, you know, downtown, and you should be doing all that and not, you know. But then we have to tell them, well, we don't come up with these on our own. It's by neighborhood petition. Maybe sometimes the police commission gets requests from the bike and ped committee, or even just, you know, interested neighbors that say, hey, can we put a sidewalk here? So there's always requests like that. And so, you know, that's part of the reason that we have to usually do a survey. We have to make sure we meet the ADA. We have to get funding for it. So that's why things take long. My advice to anybody new here is you will probably have some frustration. Things want to take a while. I don't mind you, hey, come on, move along or ask for updates. But when you look in the rearview mirror after 2 or 3 years, you're like, oh, shoot, look at what we did, you know. And we have a lot of things coming up. We have probably between $7 and $10 million worth of sidewalk and, in some cases, bike improvements in all the areas of town. The Southport Connectivity Project is still going on. Right now, we're having difficulties getting an easement, which is holding up the project for over 2 years from a particular landowner. We have Stratfield Road. We did a road safety audit on behalf of some of the people from this committee had attended, Board of Ed, and we're going to get a $2 million grant for that. We're going to get $1.5 million to $2 million in the Grassmere Post Road area near, Ash Creek there, and then we even have another in the hopper, $1.5 million from that area to almost the Post Road Circle. So that's another area. And then there's, we're improving all the ADA ramps. The newer Director of Public Works it's something the town should have been doing anyway, but where even if we overlay or reconstruct a road, we are going to put in ADA ramps, and we finally have some money to do that. So
Hello? Oh no, I lost you. What happened? Hello? Hello? The audio is not playing. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh no, that's not what.
there are a couple places where I think they might be possible.
Mary, you there?
sometimes. Right.
Yeah, what happened? I lost Phil.
I don't know, the phone just died on us, so I just signed back in, so you're back on.
Yeah, I missed Phil's report.
Roundabout, then there's a mini roundabout, which there's pros and cons to that, because if they're done a certain way, they actually, if somebody's not paying attention, they go through the thing, and the next thing you know, they're airborne. There was one request that I know was recently denied by the police commission, but that doesn't mean they're gonna deny them all. I think they have to take them each by each, case or whatever. Like, for instance, the one in Monroe, or even the one they're talking about here, where it's the Post Road Circle.
Mm.
Those are millions of dollars, and so, we have to, for locally, we have to think of smaller ones if that were to be the case. But the town usually doesn't want to take away property if they can help it.
Mm.
And then we would maybe look at other alternatives first, but certainly a roundabout versus a traffic light, for instance, there's probably 10 to 1 in terms of pros versus cons. So certainly it is what they call a tool in the toolbox for that. So again, I think it has to just be looked at on an individual basis for that. And when you mentioned with the university, now the exact ties, I have to admit, I don't know too many people from Fairfield University. The one time we did work with them, it's hard to believe, but about 8 years ago, there wasn't even a sidewalk on Round Hill Road by the university. When they went within a major development, knowing I had some support from members of TPZ and a couple of other people, we were like, we might not approve this unless you at least come with a proposal, because there's such a heavy demand for this sidewalk, and they put it in, and certainly during COVID, I saw 30 people in a 30-minute span, if not 10-minute span, that many people walking. So, yeah, we have to kind of improve on it. I don't have that much of a connection. The other connection is with former Chief Gary McNamara at Sacred Heart. So we do have a little in on that one. But I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did forget. We did get Steve's grant for Round Hill Road and Reef Road, $500,000 in sidewalks. So that was one I forgot to mention. Actually, we have about 40 grants, so forgive me if I forget. And then the other one was MetroCog, which is another one that we sometimes get grants through. And MetroCog used to be called the Greater Bridgeport Regional Planning Agency. It's the 6 towns, since Fairfield doesn't have county, or state doesn't have county government. They go with regional planning agencies instead. And MetroCog did submit one, which for Safe Routes for All grant, in which they were trying to say the Sacred Heart area, between the new hockey rink, you mentioned the west side or whatever it is. There's some clamoring maybe for some sidewalks along Jefferson Street. There's new dorms or apartments on Old Town Road in Trumbull, and then Bridgeport. And so we think, it hasn't been awarded yet, but they applied, and they really stress, intermunicipal cooperation, and the fact that we have 3.
Mm.
So it sounds really good that they say, a grant is for 3 towns rather than 1. We'd like to think we have a good chance of that one, and that would be for the Sacred Heart. And having a meeting with them fairly recent, I kind of mentioned that if we applied, it would really look good if, a lot of these grants, it would be like 80% coverage. And so, like, if the university could chip in 10%, the town chip in 10%, and we have the federal government chip in 80%, then, for 10%, I think it will blow easily through the boards with no problem. So if we do get that grant, that's one of the ideas. And even if it's not 80-20 or 80-15-5, whatever the ratio,
is that for the bike lane thing up there, or just
it could be both, yeah, because as you know, Jefferson is pretty wide, and so there's no reason why we couldn't have a bike lane.
What about on Park?
And there's not many people that park on Jefferson Street, so that one might be a true, instead of a bike route.
The high school has parking lot.
Yep. So that could be one of our first true bike lanes where we take away all parking.
Right?
Yeah. So.
Cool.
And that brings up even another thing with the issues of bike route versus bike lane. Do you allow parking? Well, if you take away all the neighborhood parking, then you're going to have the people, my rights, I have the right to park in front. and then the project gets nowhere. So that's where, to get their support, sometimes you have to bend a little.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that was one of the
bike
things
routes idea has worked pretty good.
in one of the Sarah things, where it was a video thing, Zoom thing, whatever the hell it was,
Mhm.
with people in New Britain, and they're planning guys, they're avid bikers and all, and they said when they started out, they said the same thing. We start trying to take away parking, we're going to be dead in the cradle. So what they were doing was, we'll make it a bike lane, and yeah, you can park. There's some streets, like at Jefferson, they know no one's really ever going to park there, so it's not an issue. Or if you got to go out and go around a car every 5 blocks,
Right.
who cares?
Right, you just don't want to do that if there's 15
Right,
cars
exactly.
there.
So
Right,
they said
exactly.
they were going to put the lane in, and because then they may do it on Jefferson type streets, and then
Right, yeah.
several.
And, I mean, just because if we ever do have a grant, or they ask for more, because I never know when they're gonna come and contact us. I mean, just even by a show of hands, I mean, it's a little informal, and maybe we won't make it a formal vote, but at least I could say, we talked about it. With that Jefferson Street, I would assume that everybody here in the Bike and Ped Committee would support, an application and support cycling and walking and all that. So this way I could at least, say that, we had talked, and, at least conceptually, we have their approval. And then if they want something more formal, I'll come back with a formal motion or whatever it is. So.
Sure.
Great.
All right, thanks.
Last
Thank you.
question, if I
I just don't want to take up.
No,
your time.
Board of Ed relationship with, we have a new superintendent and all that sort of stuff, obviously, I care about schools, so, and I know you and I have had many conversations about this over time, so.
They're hard to get a hold of, but ironically, sometimes timing is everything. If you have a particular school or an area, kind of let me know. I am meeting with Board of Ed, ironically, about 2 of the schools tomorrow morning.
You're gonna email them about an hour.
Well, and if I have time, or I'll just mention it. One of the things I'm thinking of, and I'll throw it by here, if you don't mind. I don't want to take, is because I know people from Mill Plain Road, maybe even Villa. I think Sarah was a big proponent of it. Is the mid-block crosswalk having the sign in the middle of the road, which I was in favor of, so much that even before the state officially allowed it or whatever, we took it upon ourselves of, well, we'll put it in during the peak hours, like when school starts and closes, and then pull it away. We've never had too many issues with that. 1 or 2 schools, we had to take it away because they left it there, and then it got hit by a car, and then it's in the middle of the lane, and then it all causes all sorts of problems. So we just wanted at least some feedback that somebody would take care of it if something like that happened.
Who would take care of it? The school or?
No, the school, because again, they're there, they're gonna see it.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if the police or even DPW sees it in the street, they
Oh, yeah,
can do it.
but
they're
their
all the time,
responsibility.
right. And so we had established practice in 2007 that as long as they, come and take it away, and much like we were talking about the feedback signs, when the sign's there one day but not the other day, and the next day you see, whoa, there's something. So
Yeah, like
some
St.
studies
Paul's
have
around the
shown,
corner,
right, exactly. Some studies have shown that is more effective, and so that's why we went that way. I've seen Southbury does the same thing. They take them away. Another town takes them away. Weathersfield and maybe even Newtown, they leave them up. And so it's, I'm trying to figure out if the Board of Ed, because maybe if we put one at each school, the main access or the busiest,
Right.
then maybe that's a safety thing that doesn't cost that much, and we get some improvement. I might need some commitment, though, of some maintenance, or if we decide to leave it, then maybe take it away during the winter season, or go back to the back and forth, because the DPW, I know that they're afraid of, if you leave it up, it snows 3 inches, and then we get a cold, Canadian high comes right after. Now all of a sudden it's ice, and now you have ice on a crosswalk. And so that's what they were afraid of. So I think we might be able to do something. I have to present it to the police commission, but I just want to know if anybody had a quick sense of whether they think it's a good idea to take them and put them back as it's not there all the time, or leave them up because
You know,
sometimes people cross
it's like when
at
you
night.
drive-
It's not always during school. So
It's like when you drive down 95 on the weekend, slow down, work zone, there's nobody there.
See, that's
There's no
what I
work
mean.
going
That's
on. You're like, you pay no attention to it.
Right.
Everybody's simplified.
But you see what I'm getting at? There's a
Yeah.
pro and a con either way. And I just, just looking for different opinions or whatever on that.
Yeah.
That would be another good place then for high volume areas, put a signaled crosswalk.
Well, signal crosswalk, meaning like the RRFB or an actual signal or a...
Stop, when somebody's crossing, just cross, you hit it to cross. So the arm, the hand,
Fairfield Avenue, Black Rock.
like.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
over the-
that's they call that the RRFB.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know that name.
Rapid Rectangular Flashing Beacon. And they come for a set, they're about $15,000-$20,000. Then you have to have the ramps and whatever. So the whole package is probably about $25,000-$30,000 to put them in. Through a state grant, though, we're going to get 4 of them. But again, in the age of frustration, the one at St. Paul's, it was, they right before COVID, I think, they asked the towns for the list. So I gave them the list of 4, including one near the train station, near New England or Rhode Island and Kings Highway, past Whole Foods, closer to the train station.
Fairfield Metro.
Yeah, Metro, I'm sorry. Yeah, Metro.
Mhm.
And so I gave them 4 of them, and actually 5 of them, and one on Old Post Road. Actually, they approved them all, but then it was a year to award it, another year to negotiate with the designer because they're going to do statewide, so there's like 100 of them. Then it's going to take another year to design, and then 1 to 3 years to construct. So when I told St. Paul's, we got the grant, they were all happy, and then when I called back 6 months later saying, hey, what's the status of this? They gave me that information. I'm like, so now I'm going to tell St. Paul's, it will be up in 2025.
Kids will be in college by then.
So we took it upon ourselves to do that one, and I'm working on that design now. But just to give you an example of
Because I think that would be a
frustration
good
and
solution
timeline.
for schools
Yeah.
and different things like that. 'cause
Yeah.
the person has
But the
to-
crosswalk one, if it's a blanket one or something like that, we approve, or we say, whether we go in and out or get it approved, it's still an improvement. I think I have some money in the budget for that, and I think that would be, again, just heightening awareness of that it's a school zone. And you might have seen the green signs and all that in the crosswalk, so. But I'm also using this as a little education. Normally I won't talk this
No, I appreciate it.
but I just figure all
Thank
tidbit
Yep.
and try to keep you up to date.
Yep.
So.
And what was that thing called?
RRFB.
FB, okay.
I didn't know.
And then the other one, you could kind of call it an in-street crosswalk sign.
Okay, thanks.
What's the difference?
Well, that one is just a sign that you put in the middle of the road.
Oh, sorry, right. Okay.
But
So the one with
it's
the-
weighted down a little bit. The other one with the flashing is RRFB.
The one that does the countdown.
That's just a pedestrian countdown signal. That's something even different. That's a third thing.
That's a
And what-
PDS.
What's the RRFB?
That's the one in Bridgeport that flashes. You hit the button,
Yeah.
and it warns the drive.
Oh, okay.
There's no red lights. It's actually yellow lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are good, and then
Yeah,
the
that's what I said.
countdown are
We'll be
good
getting,
too.
yeah, the countdown ones are for signals that already exist, that have established, that is the key word, established
I
crosswalks,
see. Okay.
so.
What's the second R for? Rapid what? R?
Rectangular, because
Rectangular.
they're high intensity
Really
rectangular.
clever name.
Yeah, they love these acronyms or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's no BFD, I don't know.
The only good thing about it's only activated when someone hits it.
WTF, come on.
So then it's the
The
front.
concern for Old Post Road is, we're gonna be looking at flashing, it's only when someone crosses. So if
Right.
you have, outside of a peak hour, of maybe 20, 30 people crossing, or an event, you might only have somebody hit it 4 or 5 times an hour. It's not gonna be that.
All right, Bill,
And
thank you so much.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
I promised Santina she would give you
Yeah.
that.
How many wakes Santina?
Yeah. No, it's okay. All right, so just to kind of give everyone a little bit of background about the grant that the health department has, Bill is talking about millions of dollars. The health department grants anywhere between like $12,000 to $16,000. So we're not talking a large amount of money. Our grant runs, it's a federal grant, so the CDC gives the state money and then the state allocates the funds to the locals. The state, we have a really good relationship with them. They really like our partnership that we have with the bike ped and engineering and police and DPW. So every now and then they do kick us a little bit extra. But again, we're talking a few thousand, not an outrageous amount of money.
Well, you see it pretty much right away.
Yeah.
That year, rather than buying, go for 3 or 4 years, you
So,
see hers right away.
I'll tell them, I'll get there. So our grant runs October 1st until September 30th. So also part of the reason why things are delayed is by the time we get the money, and we only get half the money, and then I might write a midterm report in about March, and then we get the other half of funds. So by the time the weather's nice, it's finally when we have all of the money, and that's when Bill, DPW, and I start talking and trying to figure out like where we're, what the process is going to be like. So, each town applies for this from the state. They basically give us 5 sections we can choose from, and the health department, we choose policy and environmental change. So that's why the sidewalks and the bike routes and things like that fit perfectly. And every now and then when we have something that's set, so for example, Greenfield Hill, we went before the police commission, that got approved. I emailed the state and said, hey, we got another bike route approved. We're looking just for signage. It's going to cost, about $5,000 to $10,000. He emailed me back and said, I'll give you an extra $7,000 for next year. That's dedicated straight for that. So if there's anything that we have set in stone that's ready to go, they are more likely to say, here's some additional money for you. So, for example, last year we had $15,295. We ended up spending $15,338 on South Pine Creek, as well as some changes or new fencing for the Lincoln Park. So we were over by $38.40. For year 4, we're going to continue on with South Pine Creek. We have about $15,000 to spend for that. And we, again, have that additional $7,000 for the Greenfield Hill for the signage.
Thanks for reminding me that, because I haven't done any signage or anything like that.
Well, we have until September 30th.
Well, we're going to try. My goal this year is to make sure to give you a month or 2 relaxation rather than poor Santina. It's September 28th, she's getting the last invoice.
Yeah. So that's my update for that. And then you may remember a few years ago we had a bike share program out of Zanes. So we had 10 bike share bikes. Zanes went away, and there was no other bike shop that we could partner with, and these bikes were just kind of sitting at the health department. Well, we donated 5 bikes to Fairfield U and 5 bikes to Sacred Heart. So those are out, and they are there, and they are their responsibility.
Great.
And I think that's it for my update.
Excellent, thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
I'll stay for like a few more minutes.
You can feel free,
That's not part of the bike, that's not part of the bike share anymore? That Fairfield's out of that?
Yeah, so it was a pilot program, and when Zanes left, we called around to a few different places, but there was no real partnership there, and the bikes were just sitting in our office. And so from here, we were trying to brainstorm different ways. We had kind of thought maybe giving them to the hotels. The state wasn't too thrilled about that. The state really liked the idea of giving it to the universities, and so each university took 5.
Are they even using it?
Do you know what they're doing?
They said they are using it, yes. I can find out.
Raffle prizes, Christmas party.
The only reason why I bring it up is I feel like I see more scooters out there than the actual bikes, which I feel.
Yep, so the town does have that
A lot of
scooter
exercise.
share program, which I believe is also a pilot program.
Right.
And then this bike share was completely separate. This is actually from a few years ago. Those bikes, we're talking like pre-COVID. Those bikes have been sitting in our office for about 2 years. Yeah, I mean, they weren't doing us any good, and so the health department paid, a few $100s to get them. fixed up and tuned and all of that stuff and kind of sent away. Because it was a lot of back and forth too, you know, it's state money, so getting the approval from them and figuring out like what's best.
Is the electric scooter program still on, or has it run its
It's a pilot
course?
program at the moment.
Yeah, so it's a pilot program,
Yeah,
and I think it was going to end relatively soon.
I don't know, but I know we've had a lot of issues with it.
Oh, yeah.
We've had, I know of one accident that we had, which was pretty severe, but, again, it's, they're not considered a vehicle, they fall in their own classification, so it becomes much more difficult for, enforcement. I see a lot of kids on them, I mean, it's,
Actually scary.
yeah.
You know, a lot of, that was not a pet peeve, but where I live down by the beach, they're all over the place, basically. I would say 90% of the people use them properly, but I see these like 12 and 13-year-old kids riding 3 up on the thing, and I don't even know what to do or to say. I mean, it's like, it scares me.
Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, I mean, I don't
know how you stop that.
I think they're gonna get rid of it if they can.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not from health department. It's
yeah.
actually from economic development, and I'm more than happy to reach out to Mark to get like a status update. And
That'd be
see where
great.
he's
I'd
seeing.
love to
Yeah.
hear that.
They're huge though, they're all over Europe, bird.
I see a way.
Yeah.
I went to Italy not too long ago, and, Bird is out there along with all the other competitors.
Yeah,
I think they enroll, I mean, they ride those things like, but, it's great, enrollment's crazy, you drive in Rome, you've got, even with the scooter, the regular Vespas and everything, but now, these things, oh my God, people are just like, it's crazy.
I see them in Manhattan, in the middle of Second Avenue, doing about 40 miles an hour, passing.
If the town eliminates the program, or ends it, it doesn't stop individuals from buying them and riding them.
Oh, right.
No, but I mean, it would definitely reduce the amount of liability and risk. I mean,
Yeah.
and then on our, from our standpoint, from the police standpoint, it's very difficult for enforcement, because of the way that the company Bird has to protect their clients.
Right.
So, if we get an accident where the person takes off or whatever, they're very protective with the client's information, and it's a really a tough thing to get that information and stuff, so.
Yeah.
Could you do anything when you see the kids like doing donuts in the parking lot or riding them recklessly?
I mean, like,
Because that's
again,
what's
it's
ruining
not
it.
a vehicle, it's an electric, it falls into a whole different, it's very new to us, and being that it is a pilot program so far, there hasn't really been that much regulation as far as what we're gonna do with it. I mean, until we figure out, is this thing gonna stay, and.
Well, we talked a couple of things about like slowing down to max speed, because there's a governor on there, and I think it's 15.
I think they go like 18, they go.
I know they go at least 15.
I think it's like
Maybe
15 or
even
18 miles per
Yeah,
hour.
I think that's what it,
I have ridden one before, and they're fast, they're fast.
Yeah.
I think it was like 18, and then I think Sarah was talking with economic, and I could be wrong, but I think she had talked with.
Well, we said it might make more
for them
sense
to
to
lower
drop
it
it down to some number below that.
Right.
I mean, even
Yeah.
taking
I think
5
they
miles
did.
an hour would
I
make a
think they did
big
now.
difference.
And you are supposed to be
18.
None of them are.
Yep.
No kids are. The kids are.
Oh, yeah.
Parents
Give them cards.
Well, 21 to get a beer.
Sidewalk, right. They're on the sidewalk, and they shouldn't be on the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
Well, like
Like I
everything
said,
else,
they haven't, they're so new, I mean, the program's new, it's like even for, like our state statutes haven't really caught up with all that stuff. So it's still like a really new thing, And I'm sure if the more statistics we have, accidents, which we don't want, I mean, we don't want these things.
I mean, they can control the border, obviously, right? So you can't go from
Right,
Fairfield
they
to
have
Bridgeport,
geofencing.
it's shut geofencing. But I'm wondering, the one thing that occurred to me, like, now it's getting darker out sooner, I mean,
There's lighting on it, they have
Yeah.
lighting.
I've ridden them at
But the lighting stinks.
God,
Yeah, it does.
that's my
The
point,
little-
though, I mean,
Yeah.
The little
They should-
red light,
they should not be allowed out at past sunset. But geo planning or whatever, they should be able to do that. Like, you can't drive it in the dark.
Somebody said they walked to the train station,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Well, if you rode these to the train station when
How do
you're
you
home,
know?
it's dark,
Yeah.
that's gonna be
Yeah,
different.
but you don't own it, you leave it
No,
there,
I
you can
know.
leave whatever you want, so then you Uber home or walk home, I guess,
Yeah.
whatever,
Right.
almost sidebar thing.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
else, if they could be follow the rules, then you'd have no problem, and
Right.
we would probably be supporting it.
Yep.
And they did have them in Bridgeport, and then I don't know what happened, but Bridgeport didn't renew their.
Oh, they got rid of them in Bridgeport?
I think
didn't know
they
that, huh?
did. And it could have just been UB and not the city of Bridgeport, but I know that they were having some issues.
Well, somebody told a story when the first meeting I was here, I think, that in San Diego, they were taking them and throwing them off the bridges, and you know.
Go find it now.
So, you know, people just don't care sometimes about property, you know. And they use a fake credit card, so they'll never get caught, and they just like stop and dump it for fun or stupid stuff like that. So, anyhow.
One question for Santina. Like you said, you have grants. The grants that you just described, and you explained the cycle. What kind of input do you want from our committee, and when would you want that input?
Yeah, so, you know, they run on a 3-year cycle, and they did extend it this year for a 4th year. So kind of before the cycle, my director and I kind of sit down and we're like, where are we going to use our funds? And for the last several years, it's been on policy and environmental change. That may or may not change. And then we kind of say what we have an idea on. And then I'll usually come here before I write the application and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. For this cycle, we've been doing so much with bike routes. I kind of wanted a change, and I said, I would love to do some pedestrian work. What do you guys think? And everyone was in support of that. And so that's where we started to write, okay, for the next 3 years, we're going to work on pedestrian and sidewalk improvements.
Okay.
Great.
And I write it pretty broad, so that we can kind of have a discussion on like what areas are best, and then I'll usually touch base with the state and say, hey, these are the areas we're thinking about. They tell me which one they kind of like the most. Again, they're really into connectivity, things that we can do in-house, so we rely heavily on DPW to do the work. So, you know, I kind of go based on.
So we're in the 4th year?
We're entering the 4th year.
Entering the 4th year, okay.
So they'll probably email me sometime in March.
To say, okay.
To say, hey, you know, these are the options. Yeah.
Yeah, last year, the board was deciding between extending a little section by Tomlinson to the Autobahn, but then you have a parking lot and the bridge underneath, and then after that, there was no sidewalk, or South Pine Creek, and I think it was Mary who had suggested, and then a couple of people that were here at that meeting were like, oh, that's a good idea, and that's how we got it.
Yep.
So, you know, the perfect example of direct impact.
And I just wrote that report, and thank you to Raymond. You know, he told me by adding that area, we have now made a 1.4 miles of pure sidewalk. And so I added that in the report, and those are the kind of things that the state likes to
filling in the gaps. Yep.
Just get people to use them, would be great.
Well, they have,
there
actually.
today and taking pictures. There are people.
There are people that use that new sidewalk.
No, I know
all the
people
time,
use
like,
them.
Yeah, like that new sidewalk that you guys
A lot of
put in.
people don't.
I'm down there almost 3 mornings, 5 mornings a week,
No,
and
no,
people
I'm all
using
for
it.
that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bugs the shit out of me, people don't use it.
Because people walk in that area all the time to go down to the beach, and it's, you know, I walk down there
If
too.
you want to shoot me an email and say that, I'd love to forward it over to the state.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that'd be great. Your email's on, I'll find it.
Yeah, we'll connect.
Okay. Yeah, I can take pictures or whatever, it's definitely used.
Yep, they love showing that their funds are going to that.
Okay, no problem.
And it's more likely for them to give us additional money, they know it's going to a good project.
Okay.
Maybe things like that.
Yeah, there's tons of people that walk in that area.
Sidewalk, you
That's
have to
great.
walk on the sidewalk. You can't walk, that type of thing, just to get the education. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mary? You there?
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, okay, great. I thought would you like to give us
Yeah.
a short,
but let her go now.
Yeah, I was like, it's still there.
I said that I wanted to make a change by putting the town updates on first, and I'm not sure we gained, but that's okay,
Well,
believe
this
me.
is a
I
rarity.
think
I don't
it's
think we'll
terrific. So anyhow, Mary, go ahead.
Okay, so I am chair of the Fairfield Forestry Committee, and in Complete Streets, when you put roadside trees along the road, it helps as a calming influence, so we thought it was a good idea to collaborate with you all.
Yep.
So our update is that we completed the planting of all the trees in the tree planting fall season, and that's about 150 trees. We usually plant between 300 and 400 trees a year. Getting resolved so quickly is very early, so it shows a great collaboration that we're building with the town crews. The Pollinator Pathway Subcommittee provided an hour and a half professional development to the STEAM teachers. STEAM is science, technology, engineering, math, art, and math. That's what that stands for. And so they're going to take that information and they're going to take it back to the classroom. We taught them about pollinators, pollinator pathway, and how to germinate milkweed seeds in a milk jug outside because they need to go through a frost cycle. So we're also going to be doing that at libraries, garden clubs, and rotaries. So if you're interested, you'll be able to learn how to do your own milk jug greenhouse. We're working on an online resource of library materials for the teachers related to the natural environment. We have a monthly meeting with Angela Papageorge, who's the facilities coordinator. I actually do this with the PTA Council. Then we met with Dr. Z. No one knows how to say his last name. He's always called Dr. Z. He's the head of curriculum for the Fairfield Public Schools. And so we offered to put this online resource library together. So if there's things that you think that would be helpful, tools or materials, or if you have a group that you want to talk with me about that offline, I can go over that with you. Anybody still there?
Yep,
Yeah.
we're here. Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're so quiet. Okay. We're working
taking
on
copious notes.
Oh, okay. Oh, I sent this all to Steve before. It's all written. You don't have to type any of this up. It's all typed. We're working on updating the Fairfield Community Forest Management Plan, which is overdue. We had wanted to do it every 5 years, and it's on its 7th year. So it's sort of like your master plan, but for forestry. And because forestry and complete streets are, they kind of go together, you're in there. So we'd like to make sure that you take a look at our updates, and I'll highlight that. And whoever on your committee wants to work with me, I'll get that to them. And then for the first time, we'll be working on a document listing the 2022 accomplishments and our 2023 goals. That's something we haven't done every year that we want to do. So that's forestry. Any questions or comments on anything I said there? But then I have Sustainable Task Force. No?
Nope. We're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And this actually applies for both, because Karen Seacrest, who left your committee long ago, had been the liaison for forestry and Sustainable Fairfield, sort of like I'm the same liaison for both of these. So we're looking for someone who wants to join either or both of those meetings. The forestry meeting is the third Tuesday of the month, 9:30 to 11, and the Sustainable Fairfield Task Force is the second Thursday of the month, 7 to 8:30 p.m.
Can you repeat those again?
It's all written in Steve's email, but
I'll forward that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. No, I wanted to make it easy for your notes, for your minutes. And for Sustainable Fairfield, this one's sort of like a one-stop shop for finding out what is happening for sustainability in Fairfield. We have liaisons from a lot of different committees, commissions, and boards, as well as the Mill River Wetland Committee. So if you want to know what's happening related to sustainability, you just read our minutes, which are about 5 pages long. And they're basically more reports from people. But so that's why we want to, we tell people that, so that we have almost 100 people on our distribution list for our meeting agenda and minutes. So if you want people to know what's happening with Bike Ped that may not come or read your minutes, you can do a report. And if you just want to even send us something, that would be great. But if you want to be on our distribution list to see when our meetings are and, what our minutes say, I'm happy to include any of you. I have everyone's email but Jay's. My email I don't have. Exciting news. Fairfield, since 2018, has been submitting an application to be a Sustainable CT municipality. It's a certification that will last for 3 years. So we got it in 2018 and we reapplied in 2021. And both times we got their highest level of certification, which is silver. This year they started something called Climate Leader Certification, and we are one of only 5 towns in all of the 169 towns in Connecticut that received this. So we just went to the awards ceremonies this week. So Thank you, because as we were working with you and Complete Streets and the different things that you do as part of that application. And same for the other applications in 18 and 21. So along those lines, we will be continuing to go for recertification in 2024. And after 2 times of doing this, we realized it's hell. It's a lot of documentation, and it's very hard to recreate what you've done over 3 years. So we're asking to keep track of these reports that Bill and Santina in particular give, because then we can document as they go. And I know that we haven't been probably getting full points for all the great work that you all are doing, because I call Bill or I email Bill and he starts blasting me with all sorts of wonderful write-ups and emails and pictures. But, that's just not fair to ask people to be recreating history. So I'm hoping that I can get a point person on this endeavor in terms of there's a certain way that we need to go about doing our project and documenting those projects. We usually follow them just fine, but sometimes we have to tweak some part of it. And so it'd be helpful to have somebody that I can work with along those lines. There's a new gold level starting this coming year in 2023. And so obviously, it's not obviously, but you need more points. You need to do more things to get that level. So being the Fairfield County hyper competitive group that we are, we want to go for gold certification for Fairfield, the town of Fairfield.
Great.
Just to go ahead.
No, I said great.
Oh, okay. Just to give an understanding or a background of how we do things, we split ourselves up into 7 committees. So if there's any that are of interest to you, we do communication and outreach, and we have an Instagram account that has well over 1,000 people following us. So if you want to send us something to push out, she's also on Facebook, that particular chair, we're happy to help amplify your messaging. We have an Energy and Built Environment Committee, which may be of interest to you. We have an Equity Committee, which because of Sustainable Connecticut, to go for gold, we need to do 4 very big actions related to equity, and we're trying to embed equity in how we enact all our actions going forward. We have a Food and Waste Committee. We have a Natural Environment Committee that I chair. We have a Transportation Committee, which seems like the best fit. And then we have an Advocacy Committee where we write to PURA, Siting Council, the legislature, and so forth. So if there's anything along those lines that you want to work with us on, those have their own monthly meetings, usually during the day, and then we have our night meeting. So we heartily encourage you to join us if you're interested. And then lastly, the Sustainable Fairfield group is working on their 2022 accomplishments and 2023 goals, which we have done for years. So I should do that for Fairfield Forestry. So that's how that step started. So that's my my update, and it's, as I said, it's written to Steve. I forgot to talk about the liaison to forestry, but I'll send you that information.
Yeah, Mary, can you help me out with something? Okay, I understand the synergy with the Forestry Commission. Could you give me an example of the synergy between our committee and sustainability? Just give me an example, okay, of something that's been done in the past year.
We have the 7 committees. So we have a Transportation Committee.
Okay, and
so that covers any mode of transportation, which
so
sounds like
that's something that we've worked together on. We're trying to educate ourselves, which I said earlier in the meeting. What's something that this committee and your committee, the transportation one specifically, have, quote, worked on, and I'll say, if you want to say accomplished in the past year? Just one thing, guy, just so I can wrap my head around why, how we interact to help each other accomplish something. What's an example of something?
Again, like Complete Streets was a good example because we used what work you did there to get the certification for the town. All those sidewalk projects that worked in tandem. It's not always a clear, clean connect or break between one or the other. I also am working with the PTA council, so we're getting green teams at each of the schools. And of course, if you're working with the schools, there's 18 PTAs in town, and then there's a PTA council overarching that. So I work with the PTA council on sustainability specifically, and then I interact with each schools and the school system. So I work with them related to sustainability. From their perspective, having a walk to school day is a sustainability initiative. We write up about what they do when they do that at the schools. How you get involved,
Okay. I was just trying to educate myself as to our interactions and how we can work together to accomplish things. So thank you.
And to educate you once, so sustainablefairfield.org is our website that we maintain separate from the town. And on there is our sustainability plan, which is the town's sustainability plan. It was approved by the Board of Selectmen. And also what we've done every year in the fall, which we skipped this year because of supply chain issues, is we have a transportation fair. We call it Green Wheels Expo. And we talk about every mode of transportation except internal combustion vehicles or engines. So ICE is the acronym for that. So we have usually had the bike ped folks come and do a table there. And then when Zane was in town, they would come with their bikes and they would have bikes for people to work with. We have a very close relationship with CT Rides. I don't know if you know what CT Rides is, do you?
That's where Sarah went.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she did?
That's where Sarah Roy got a job.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Well, we work very closely with them, and that also gets points for the certification process, and that includes alternative ways of getting around other than those ICE engines that we want to use less of. So we're not really great on the funding side of things, but there is actually a grant through Sustainable Connecticut that you can get up to $15,000 per project. You raise $7,500 and then they'll match it. And it's called crowdsourcing. They help you create a website on their page, that web area that they use, and then they help promote it. And again, we could help promote that. So if there was some reason that you wanted to create a project that you don't get funding through Centino or the town, there's a way that we could do that. And we've done a lot of those grants, and we've gotten well past our goal every time. And we have a newsletter like you guys do. And that was my one question. Are you going to continue the newsletter?
Like I said, we're in a state of flux here a little bit with all new members, and we're trying to figure out a path of things we want to do, and hopefully prioritize them. And as of right now, I would say that's not a high priority in the immediate future, but long term, certainly, I think it's a good thing. But we sort of have to funnel down all the stuff that we're thinking about doing and working on some things that, we prioritize and, hopefully knock them off one by one and add a new one. So that's how I think it could work. And so to answer your question, I don't know for a fact, but I don't really see that happening for a while or being reinstituted.
Okay. I think I worked with Mike last year. Is Mike there?
Mike's not here, so maybe that's not fair for me to answer it that way because he's the only member that's not here. So if you work with him.
I was just going to say Mike tried to work on the bike rodeo, and we were going to try and coordinate schedules because last year.
Yeah, well, that's an event more than a newsletter, I think. But, okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I was just going to let you know that also I'd say like 4 of our Sustainable Fairfield folks are PR kind of people.
What kind of people?
What?
What kind of people?
PR, professional, public relations,
right.
Media kind of folks. So what you do is a sustainable effort. So, not that I want to offer our communication and outreach committee as a whole, but there are people that are interested and have coordinated with Sarah and Keith in the past on doing things. So if you're, wanting to get the word out about certain things, we have people that are comfortable writing press releases and getting things out on the web and stuff.
Great. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know in the past meetings that I've been here, there was a quote hard stop at 7:30, which, frankly, all the meetings I ever went to never had hard stops, but that's okay.
Well, you did get rid of the icebreaker, so there's that.
If I had it, we would have done nothing, basically.
That's
but,
not a bad thing.
But, yeah, two things. I'd like to suggest, unless, Frank, you have something else you want to contribute? Okay. No, we appreciate you being here, believe me. Thank you so much. I think as we, move on, we're going to get a little better at what we're doing and organizing and all that stuff. But my personal feeling is that, the last, the agendas were set up like at 6:02 we do this, at 6:17 we do this. I'm not a fan of that, as you can see, and I don't think that makes for a good meeting. That's just me. Okay. But what I'd like to suggest going forward is that I still think it's okay to have a hard stop. But if the committee agrees, I'd like to, and not that we're going to do it every week, I'd like to make it 8 o'clock instead of 7:30, because if you look what happened today, I think we had a lot of great information. I learned a lot, and I think we're all learning, and, I think that there's nothing wrong. If we end up early, we end up earlier. That's fine. But that would be my first suggestion. And my second one is that let's approve the minutes from July and October. So can I have a motion to approve the July 2022 meeting minutes?
Yeah.
Mary approved, and who second?
Yeah.
Second, Tim, okay. Any comments, changes, edits, discussion on the minutes?
They were masterful.
Who's the one that did those?
I did one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. I'd like to hear a motion to approve the October 2022 minutes. Tom, first, Jose, seconds. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, at this point, what I'd like to suggest is that we table the rest of the items on here till next month. Because, I think everybody's expectation is that it was a 7:30 meeting, so it's not fair to go over this time. But I would like to change it or my vote would be to change it to 8 o'clock. The one thing I did want to share, though, is that the minute-taking part of this committee's charge, or whatever you want to call it, and I reached out to, and I just want to share this with everybody. I'm just going to read. Well, we've been rotating minute taking, okay, and I'll go back, and I think we need to do that at least I'll go back and I'll chronologically see who's due. I don't even know who it would be, but I know you did this month. Tim did last month. I did the month before. Tom did the month before. Maybe Jay. Have you done the minutes yet?
I
just got here.
They just got here, so.
Okay. Well, guess what? Why don't we take
Welcome to the club.
Why don't we take you for the minutes? But I did reach out to, Sarah made a point in her last email before she left about, looking for some help on the town side, and I reached out to Jennifer, who is Brenda's. She's her assistant. She's
Right.
the staff supposedly. And she sent this back to me, and it says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, just the part relates. It says, since Bike and Ped is a smaller board, unlike...
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
It says, unlike Board of Finance or RTM, we unfortunately aren't able to provide you with a paid recording secretary. So when you have your next meeting this month or in December, members should approve 2023 meeting dates, which we could actually do that today too if you'd like. Let's wait till next month. And vote on a 2023 chair, vice chair, and a secretary. And the secretary should be the one to take minutes and submit them to the town clerk and members, okay? Now, certainly that's the job nobody wants. I mean, let's all be honest and fair about it, right? That person can also help you, or whoever's the chair, submit agendas. Okay. All boards need to approve the board of members between now and the end of January. Most do it November, December. So we'll talk about it next month. Okay, so this was the interesting thing to me. It says, whomever is elected secretary can work with me in the beginning, and once they get used to things, it's pretty easy and routine. The secretary can listen to the recording of the meeting, sometimes after the meeting. That way the person can focus on the meeting and not worry about taking minutes. Since minutes are recorded, and I need to follow, all the secretary has to do is capture who attended, votes, and the time the meeting started and adjourned. So my feeling is, if that's all we have to do, that's not a big deal. And that's easy to rotate, okay? And so I'm going to get clarification on that.
No, but that's right, though. Legally, minutes, you really only have to put in,
I know, Tom,
action.
Right, who was there, decisions.
Right. Yeah, so I think,
And I can tell you what I did, because God loves Sarah, but we were all over the place and chitty-chatty here, blah, 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 and trying to, I had like 7 pages of legal pad, and then when I finally got the audio link, it's 2 hours long, and you're like,
Who wants to do that?
it was excruciating.
but I mean, I think,
I suppose in the real world, you just do so-and-so proposed, voted, agreed, blah, 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 done.
right.
Not all these esoteric things, and so-and-so discussed this, and so-and-so mentioned that, and so.
The only thing I would suggest adding to that, though, if everyone wants to agree, is that we just include a section called follow-up. So if we talk about something, and like Tim was going to meet with the SHU person, and just list it on there, and then as part of the meeting the next month,
Action item.
we go through the follow-up as part of the agenda for the following month.
Like part of that, it's next steps.
And then that's it.
Boom,
Just so we don't lose
this, we talked about that, but
so we don't lose track of it,
One of the practices that we do, where I work, is that at the end of meetings like this, there's always a review of decisions, right? So we make sure that everybody understood the decision and those follow-up items, which takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just like, what did we decide? What do we need to do?
Yeah.
Right?
But I think not making the minute taking onerous, I think is the right
100%.
word, and painful and, stressful and everything else you want to call it.
And different examples of it were done to 100 different formats.
Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. Everybody did it their own way.
And the one I got, copied from was like, holy crap.
Go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say, if I could add, I've seen different minutes, and there's one person who wrote down like almost every word that was said, and then you have, I'll just use the example of like a sewer commission meeting or whatever. It was just like you said there, the attendance, whatever vote,
Right.
and then maybe, something else.
Yeah,
and
a couple
even
follow-ups.
from here, I mean, I took notes just because I like to do that, and
Again,
but,
individually, you can take that.
again, with the policeman there, Frank had said that the temporary signs were going to be 8 to 10 weeks. If you want to put that in the notes, fine. If you don't, you don't, The only other thing that I thought Santina had was, again, and it kind of is follow-up, is that there was $15,000 for South Pine Creek. That if we do South Pine Creek and we find that it's only going to cost $12,000, well then we come back to the board and say, all right, where are we going to use this other $3,000? So to me, other than that, everything else.
That and the fact that sometime in March or April, hopefully, she's going to come back with some information to say, next cycle.
Right, if there's any more, right. But I don't even know if you have to put that in the minutes. I'm using this as an example.
Well, it's notes versus the minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. But again,
if you keep it simple, then, like you said, then people might not want.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. And I think the word follow-up is the key, because in the 3 or 4 or 5 meetings I've been for, I think, it's always been, okay, all right, I'll reach out to so-and-so, and the person generally does, but we don't always follow up and find out if that person reached out and if they can give us some feedback on the reach out that they did. And I think that's enough to do. 3 or 4, or maybe none. Sometimes there's none probably in a given month, but, or I volunteer to meet with, the police chief about something, or, and I'll so that's a follow-up for next month.
Exactly.
So.
Exactly.
I think that goes a long way towards relieving, like I said, it's a burden. It is a burden. I mean,
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, like, you don't know what to
Everybody's
do
a
it.
volunteer, you don't wanna.
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like you have
it's
to.
not a job, you know, we don't wanna turn, my
Yeah.
feeling is, you know,
Turn
that
away the
this
volunteer,
committee,
yeah.
for, you know, obviously it's not paid, which is fine. But, you know, we don't want it to be a job, you know, and again, sorry, Sarah, but, you know, I mean, I think we got inundated with a lot of stuff, man, like a lot. I didn't send one email, okay, and I would send, you know, I'll send the one for, I have a follow-up here email, Mary's email, okay, which I probably should have done, but just as an informational thing for everybody, and that's all it is. So anyhow, that's my thought process on that, so.
I'm with you.
All right, so motion to adjourn, it's 7:38, 7:37. Mary,
Yes.
second?
Second.
Tim? All in favor?
Aye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, Mary.